I went from this physique to this physique, and I went through 3 phases. The main one is an experience. The second is experiencing, and the third one is mastering. And I'm gonna explain the three so you can actually implement them and to achieve similar results. See, when I was starting at the beginning, and this is why I like to call it the inexperience or no experience phase, because you actually are trying to improve something without having feedback. Even if you study, or if you are, for example, like in my case, doing a career back then about fitness and nutrition, I didn't apply that stuff to myself yet. So the information that I have, I didn't have any. So I have to start testing things out to actually see what works. And when I started, I was doing what I think I had to do. And this phase is usually pretty inconsistent. Like a lot of people go to the gym 2 months, 2 weeks, then leave for 4 months, then go again for 4 months. And it's really inconsistent. And the problem with that and why people do it is because most people don't understand how to keep consistency and how to keep the reps, keep putting the reps. Doesn't matter external condition. What I mean is that if you rely on one gym to go training, when you leave that gym, you're not going to train anymore. If you have to work out in your home or do some kind of workout, you are not gonna work out. So that's why I think it was key for my case. It was understanding the principles from the beginning. So when I started like dreaming about building the physique that I wanted, I was really skinny, like 55 kilos, really skinny. I started understanding the principles of training back then and the principle of nutrition that allowed me to actually understand what I had to eat. And basically that first phase can go from 1 to 60 days all the way to 2 years, 3 years, or many people never leave that first phase of no experience because they never get the principles on how to actually get in shape. So they keep testing things out, but they never understand the principles. And when you don't understand the principles, you don't understand how to train without equipment, for example. You don't understand how to eat if you don't have the diet that your nutritionists give you. So if you have certain diet, when you cannot afford some food anymore, or when you don't understand what foods you should eat, what foods you should not eat, you quit. So you quit for 6 months, 1 year. I know people who quit for who train only in summer. So they train like 3 months and then they leave and they don't train for 9 months. And then they train the other summer. So the progress that one person makes in 1 year training all the year straight, like 12 months, they do it in 4 years because they are training 3 months every year. So the progress is a lot slower. And so that's why for me it's critical to understanding the principles. And then when you understand the principles, you enter to the second phase. When you already went from no experience to experience, which is trying a routine and sticking to it for at least 60 days. If you do it right, you can go to the next phase, which is experiencing. And that is the phase where you start experiencing, but with different methods. This is usually the intermediate phase. That phase can go from 60 days to 5 years, or even more. What it depends, that phase, basically, what are you doing to discover what actually works for you? That is the main purpose of that phase. So when you understand the principles of nutrition, training, how do you recover? Sleep is really important. If you don't sleep, you don't recover. Recovery is where you actually build muscle. You need protein. You need a diet where you are eating carbohydrates, where you don't restrict yourself too much. So you get the perfect distribution. One of the best ones would be 25% carbohydrates, 30% fats, and then like 55% carbohydrates. Like that's usually very good distribution there. And that kind of things that you are testing at the beginning
in this phase of experiencing, you try different ways to implement them in your life. So what do I mean? So you have the, for example, keto diet, where you don't have carbohydrates. You try the push-pull legs routine, 4 days. You try to train 5 days a week. You try 7 days. Then you try twice a day for 5 days. And then you try to go to the gym, do calisthenics. You try CrossFit. You experience different methods under the main principles. So this phase, or you try vegan, vegetarian, like all the kind of variables that you have, different kind of diets, trainings, and different kind of ways to keep it and to actually discover what actually works for you. Because remember, the key for fitness is actually consistency. So all that you have to aim for is consistency. If you are not consistent with something, what's the point? What's the sense of not keeping something forever? I always tell my clients, what's the sense of me giving you a routine and a diet plan if I'm not gonna be with you until you are 80 years old? And when you are 80 years old, I leave you because you're not gonna be with me until you are 80 years old, will you? No. So I give every client, and for me this is about every person, should understand what your nutritionist, what your trainer is giving you. Understand like the principles of it so you can apply the principles to you. And then you can manage in whatever scenario that can happen in your life, how to control your diet, your training, even when you don't have time, when you have little time. If you have, for example, 1 hour or 20 minutes in an empty room without anything, what would you do, right? I know what I would do. Do you know what you do? So that knowledge of how to apply the principles to your case is the experiencing phase, where you try different things, different variables. And when you achieve it and really understand something that you can keep and you can be consistent, there you are getting there. You are getting to the point, which is the third one, of mastery. The point of mastery is to actually go all in that thing that actually works for you and keep it and get better at that thing. So let's give the example of Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? The guy mastered bodybuilding. That was his sport. He loved bodybuilding. He loved to compete. He loved to get on the stages. So that was his sport, right? For example, for Rafael Nadal is tennis. So his diet is a certain way. His sports is tennis. So when you try to, in this case, trying to build a elite physique, a athletic physique, a physique that you can actually maintain, because that's the point. Remember, if you cannot maintain it, what's the point? You want to find something that actually gives you the things that you need all the year, and you can maintain it. So for me, what I found that works in my case and how I achieved this physique. So when I started cutting carbs, cutting carbohydrates, like being really strict in my diet. Then I started getting like, I want to get, because I was so shredded, but I was skinny. I still skinny. So I wanted to gain some weight. And so I started being like less strict in my diet, and I started implementing more carbohydrates, like bread, more like free meals, right? More rice, more food, like pasta, like really big plates. I started eating more, being like careful about the protein and all that. So I bulk, but at the same time, I don't do this, sorry for the word, but shit, of dirty bulk, where people, mainly kids, or people that don't know what they are doing, try to eat candies, fries, fast food, ultra processed food to gain muscle. They don't realize that what they are mainly gaining is fat, because for muscle production, you need your hormones in place. And when you're eating all that processed food, you are not gaining muscle, you are gaining fat, you are getting unhealthy. So don't do that. You gotta eat healthy, just with a surplus of calories, like 300. That's the ideal. That you cannot overwork your system to gain muscle. You need the time. If you eat 3,000 calories plus, you're not gonna gain more muscle because you want to. No, you need to be consistent. And that's why consistency is the key. So for me, what I found is that training 3 to 4 days per week is the ideal for me. And my ideal training is doing a few exercises, high intensity workouts, and training really hard. Not cutting 100% the carbs, but having 30 to 40% of my diet in carbohydrates. Because remember that 75% of the muscle mass is carbohydrates. In the carbohydrates, you have glycogen, which is like the glucose storage in the muscle, electrolytes, potassium, sodium, right?
When you save those, when you find that thing that actually works for you, you have to just master the field that you are trying to achieve, which for me is performance. I found out that performance for me is the thing that I really love, that I really like. What do I mean by performance? Well, I don't feel identified with the diet of the typical bodybuilding diet, where bodybuilders eat like a lot of calories to gain muscle, and then they feel like they only work for training because they cannot do anything else in their lives, because they don't have energy, because they are so heavy, and they have a really like boring life, in the sense of eating chicken and rice every day just to step on a stage and be the bigger guy on the room and win a trophy. It's like, I don't have anything against those people, against bodybuilders. Actually, I admire the work because it's really, really hard. But I never found myself doing that. So I wanted to find something that gives me energy, that I can be athletic, that I can climb mountains, I can go kayak, I can go fishing, I can swim, I can do other sports, I can be strong, but like really strong, like do all kind of activities. um, so that was my goal, and I found that training 4 times per week is the ideal for me to build muscle and to gain strength. So that's my ideal. And then I found out that to actually have energy, I had to follow a diet based on testosterone production, hormonal health, hormonal production. Why? Because that is what gives you energy. So your testosterone helps you to the red blood cells production. And in your red blood cells, you have oxygen. And that oxygen is what gives you energy to all your body, mainly to your brain. So if you want high energy, you want high testosterone. So that's where I started optimizing. Instead of, for example, eating sugar, I could alcohol, I could sweets. I'm talking about processed sweets, because those are enemies and foods that actually stop the testosterone production, because they spike your insulin. So I started, and also you have to have a right balance in your glucose level, because if you eat so much sugar or so more carbohydrates in just one plate, you're gonna have a spike of sugar. So you want to have the right amount of carbohydrates in every meal. You can have a fruit or something before going training, and that is because you're gonna use that energy in training. But then you gotta, you know what I mean? It's like master that field, which for me right now is human performance. So human performance mean be lean, be athletic, have high testosterone, have low stress, and have high energy. That is why I'm prioritizing, and of course be strong, be athletic. That is why I'm mastering right now. And those are the 3 phases on how I achieved this physique. I went through a lot of different stages over the past 5 years that I've been training, and this is right now what I figured. So if you like the content, I invite you to support the channel so we can grow more. And also there's a link in the description where I explain the 7 things that were killing my testosterone. If you can want to go and check that out, it's also really valuable. Maybe you'll find some value there. And again, thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.